Have you ever wondered why some men walk into a room and the energy automatically shifts, while you can be standing right there and it's like you're invisible? You see that guy who barely speaks, but when he does, everyone listens, while you try to join the conversation and it's like your words just vanish into thin air. You wake up every morning and look at yourself in the mirror, and for a second you feel that weight in your chest, that sensation that something needs to change, but you don't know exactly what. You go to work, to college, to any social setting, and you notice how other men less capable than you get more attention, more respect, more opportunities, and you wonder what they have that you don't. The truth hurts, but it's necessary. The problem isn't that others don't see you. The problem is there's nothing worth seeing yet. And worst of all is that you know you're wasting time. That every day that passes in this condition is one less day to build the version of you that truly deserves respect, that attracts opportunities, that doesn't have to struggle to be heard because your presence alone already says everything. Before we continue, I need to be completely direct with you. This is not a video created to entertain you with flashy visual effects or images rapidly passing across the screen. It was created to teach you something that can radically transform your life if you actually pay attention. We're not going to waste time with unnecessary visual distractions just to keep your attention like you're a child. This is content for men seeking real evolution, genuine development, not for those who just want to kill time. The value is in every word you're about to hear, so if you came looking for superficial entertainment, there are thousands of videos out there for you. But if you want to learn something that truly matters, something you can apply today and see results, then stay and listen carefully. Every sentence here has a purpose. I've spent years studying men who have that natural magnetism, that automatic respect that doesn't need to be demanded because it simply imposes itself. Men like Thomas Shelby didn't get where they are by chance or luck. There's a pattern, a specific way of behaving, of thinking, of moving through the world that separates men who are respected from men who are ignored. And what's fascinating is that this pattern has nothing to do with being the physically strongest, the richest, or the most attractive. It has to do with something much deeper, something any man can develop if he's willing to do the necessary internal work. What I'm going to share with you aren't abstract theories or empty philosophy. These are concrete principles proven in the most hostile environments imaginable, from corporate boardrooms to the most dangerous streets, from prisons where respect is literally a matter of survival to businesses where one wrong decision can cost you everything. These principles work because they're based on real human nature. Not on how we'd like the world to be, but on how it actually is. The first thing you need to understand, and this is fundamental, is that respect is never asked for, never begged for, never verbally demanded. Respect is radiated. It's built through a series of consistent behaviors that communicate at a subconscious level that you're a man with standards, with boundaries, with options. When you observe men like Thomas Shelby, you notice you never see him begging for attention, never see him over-explaining himself, never see him chasing validation. He exists in a state of quiet self-sufficiency that's magnetic precisely because he doesn't need anything from anyone. This is the opposite of what most men do who grew up without strong male models, men who were conditioned to please, to explain themselves, to ask permission to take up space. The first step toward genuine respect is an internal, almost spiritual decision to stop seeking external approval. It's not arrogance, it's not inflated ego. It's simply a quiet certainty in your own value that doesn't fluctuate according to others' opinions. When you make this decision and maintain it consistently, something changes in your energy. People perceive it without you saying a single word. Your posture changes, your way of making eye contact changes, your tone of voice changes. You stop having that pleading quality that repels respect, and you begin to emanate that quality of a complete man that naturally attracts it. The second principle that completely transforms how you're perceived is learning to use silence strategically. We live in a culture where people talk non-stop, filling every second of air with noise, unnecessary comments, unsolicited opinions, trying to prove their value through volume and quantity of words. Powerful men understand that silence is a tool, a form of communication more potent than 1,000 empty phrases. When you study the interactions of strategic leaders, you notice they speak less, but every word counts. They don't rush to fill uncomfortable silences. They don't feel the need to react immediately to every comment or question. There's a deliberate pause, a space where they process, evaluate, and only then respond if they consider it worthwhile. This behavior creates a fascinating dynamic. People begin to value your words because they're scarce. They begin to pay more attention because they know that when you speak, it's generally something significant. But there's a deeper level here. Silence also gives you power in negotiations, in conflicts, in any exchange where something's at stake. While others rush to fill the void, revealing their insecurities and their cards, you observe, evaluate, and keep your options open. Silence makes insecure people uncomfortable, makes them talk more than they should, makes them offer more than you had planned to ask for. It's a simple but brutally effective principle. Whoever needs the interaction less, whoever is more comfortable with silence, generally has more power in any social dynamic. The third lesson that separates respected men from ignored men is the ability to establish and maintain boundaries without apologizing. Most men have blurry or non-existent boundaries. They say yes when they want to say no. They accept disrespectful behavior because they fear conflict. They allow others to invade their time, their space, their energy, and then wonder why they're not respected. It's simple. You can't be respected if you don't respect yourself enough to defend your boundaries. When you observe men with real presence, you notice they have clear lines. They're not flexible on certain principles. They don't negotiate their dignity. They don't allow convenience or fear of confrontation to lead them to betray their standards. And here's what's important. They don't establish these boundaries with performative aggression. They don't make a dramatic show of their disapproval. They simply communicate through minimal words and consistent actions that certain things aren't acceptable. If someone crosses a boundary, there's an immediate and proportional consequence. There are no endless warnings, no empty threats, no emotional dramas. There's a clear action that communicates. This isn't tolerated here. Over time, people learn where your boundaries are, and surprisingly, they respect you more for having them. Because deep down, we all respect people who respect themselves. It's basic social biology. The man without boundaries is perceived as weak, as someone who can be used, manipulated, discarded. The man with clear boundaries is perceived as someone with options, with dignity, with self-worth that doesn't need to be validated by anyone else. The fourth principle is developing real competence in areas that matter. This is where many men get completely lost. They spend time and energy building facades, projecting images on social media, trying to appear successful, powerful, attractive, without building the real substance behind the image. Men like Thomas Shelby are respected because they're genuinely capable. They have specific skills, deep knowledge, tangible capabilities that generate results in the real world. They're not acting a role, they're being the real thing. And the difference is perceptible. When you develop genuine competence, when you become excellent at something that has value in the world, your confidence becomes natural because it's based on real evidence, not on self-deception. People perceive this difference instinctively. They can sense when someone really knows what they're talking about versus when someone is improvising and hoping nobody notices. So ask yourself, what are you really good at? What skills do you have that generate real value? If the answer is nothing or very little, there's your work. You can't build genuine respect on a foundation of mediocrity. You have to choose specific areas and become incompetently good at them. You don't need to be the best in the world, but you need to be competent enough that when you speak about that subject, others recognize your authority. This applies to everything: your physique, your career, your social skills, your financial knowledge. Competence generates confidence. Confidence generates presence. Presence generates respect. The fifth lesson is learning to control your emotional reactions, especially under pressure. This is critical. Nothing communicates weakness faster than a man who loses emotional control easily. When you study strategic leaders in high-pressure situations, you notice they maintain an almost unsettling calm. They're not repressing emotions in an unhealthy way. They're processing them internally without allowing them to control their external behavior. There's a huge difference between feeling fear and acting from fear, between feeling anger and letting yourself be controlled by anger. Weak men are slaves to their immediate emotional reactions. Someone insults them and they explode. Something doesn't go their way and they collapse. They face rejection and they crumble. Strong men feel the same emotions but don't allow them to dictate their actions. There's a space between stimulus and response, and in that space is your power. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain calm, you've won. When you face a crisis and keep your head cool while others panic, you automatically become the leader others look to. This control doesn't develop overnight. It requires conscious practice. It requires deliberately putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and training your ability to maintain composure. But once you develop it, it's like having a superpower. People see you as an anchor of stability in a chaotic world. They respect you because they perceive you're reliable under pressure, that you're not going to collapse when things get difficult. The sixth principle that completely changes the dynamic is understanding and using body language strategically. Your body communicates more than your words. If your words say one thing but your body says another, people will believe your body. Men who aren't respected generally have body language that communicates insecurity. Slumped shoulders, weak eye contact, nervous movements, taking up as little space as possible as if they're apologizing for existing. Respected men occupy space deliberately, not in an aggressive way but with intention. Their posture is open, upright, their movements are controlled and deliberate. There's no nervousness in their gestures. Eye contact is sustained, comfortable, without being aggressive or unnecessarily challenging. There's an economy of movement. They're not constantly fidgeting or adjusting themselves. This communicates at a subconscious level that they're comfortable in their skin, that they don't need to impress anyone, that they're secure in their place in any space. And here's what's fascinating. You can change how you feel by changing how you move. It's bidirectional. If you adopt the physical posture of a confident man, your brain will begin to produce the chemistry of a confident man. If you walk with purpose, if you stand upright, if you make solid eye contact, you'll begin to feel different and others will begin to treat you different. It's one of the fastest ways to change your presence. Consciously control your body language until it becomes natural. The seventh and final lesson I'm going to share is probably the most important. Develop your own vision and move toward it with relentless determination. Men who are genuinely respected aren't wandering aimlessly through life, reacting to circumstances, letting themselves be carried by the current. They have a clear direction, a specific objective, a personal mission they pursue regardless of others' opinions. When you observe men like Thomas Shelby, you see that every decision, every move, every alliance is aligned with a bigger vision. They don't get distracted with nonsense. They don't waste time on insignificant dramas. They don't let others deviate them from their path. This clarity of purpose is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are lost, seeking direction, trying to decide what they want from life. When they find someone who clearly knows where they're going, they naturally want to follow or at least respect that determination. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know exactly how you're going to get there, but you need to know where you're heading. And once you know, every day you need to take actions, however small, that bring you closer to that vision. This consistency, this constant movement toward your objectives regardless of obstacles, is what builds real respect. Because people see you're not like everyone else who talks a lot, but does little. You're someone who's actually building something, who has the discipline to stay the course even when it's difficult, even when nobody's watching. Now, I want you to understand something fundamental about everything you just heard. These principles aren't tricks or temporary hacks. They're not manipulation techniques you use to fool people into respecting you. They're genuine transformations in how you think, how you behave, who you are as a man. The difference between a man who fakes these behaviors and a man who genuinely embodies them is obvious to anyone paying attention. You can't fake this presence long term. Either you're the real thing or you're not. And becoming the real thing requires deep internal work. It requires confronting the parts of you that are weak, insecure, needy. It requires breaking social conditioning that taught you to be compliant, to seek approval, to avoid conflict at all costs. It requires building real discipline, not the temporary motivation that lasts 3 days after watching an inspirational video. I'm talking about the ability to do what you know you should do day after day, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when nobody's watching, especially when results aren't immediate. The uncomfortable truth is that most men will never do this work. They'll keep complaining that they're not respected, that opportunities don't come, that life is unfair, but they won't change the fundamental behaviors keeping them stuck. They'll prefer the comfort of their familiar patterns, even if those patterns make them miserable, over the discomfort of real growth. And that's fine. Not everyone is meant to be a leader. Not everyone wants to do the hard work. But if you're here, if you've listened to this point, I suspect you're different. I suspect there's something in you that knows you were designed for more than a life of mediocrity and conditional respect. There's a version of you waiting to be built, a version that enters spaces and changes the energy, that speaks and people listen, that sets standards and others rise to meet them, that lives on your own terms without needing permission or validation from anyone. If this content served you, if you felt there was real value here, I'm asking you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm not asking you this as an empty formality. This channel exists for men seeking genuine development, who want to understand the real principles behind power, respect, and masculine transformation. If that resonates with you, then belonging to this community makes sense. Your like helps this content reach more men who need it, and your subscription keeps you connected with these lessons that can literally change your life's trajectory. We're not here for superficial entertainment. We're here for real construction of better men. So here's your decision. You can close this video and return to your life exactly as it was, or you can take even just one of these principles and implement it today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, today. Choose the most accessible one for you right now and apply it. If it's body language, stand straight right now. Make solid eye contact with the next person you talk to. If it's establishing boundaries, identify an area where you're allowing disrespectful behavior and draw a clear line. If it's controlling emotional reactions, the next time something provokes you, take 3 deep breaths before responding. Start small, but start today. Because the gap between who you are and who you could be doesn't close with intentions or plans, it closes with consistent actions. Every time you choose the behavior of the man you want to be over the behavior of the man you've been, you're building that new identity. Eventually, you won't be acting like that man anymore. You'll simply be that man. And when you get there, when you look back and see how much you've changed, you'll realize it all started with a simple decision. Choosing growth over comfort, choosing transformation over complaint, choosing to become the architect of your own destiny instead of the victim of your circumstances. The power has always been in your hands. You just needed to learn how to use it.